China's tariffs on Canada are now in effect. They include a 100% tariff on Canadian canola oil and meal and a 25% tariff on Canadian seafood and pork. With another round of U.S. tariffs coming on April 2nd, these tariffs from China only add to the uncertainty and are driving up the costs and pressure on the Canadian seafood sector. Martin Sullivan is the CEO of Ocean Choice, and he joins me now. Mr. Sullivan, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here today. You know, Martin Sullivan, help me understand how all of this is affecting things in the fishery out there, because I know with the spring is an important time. How are these tariffs affecting things for you guys?
Well, David, as you probably know, Canada exports about $7.6 billion, and about 85% of that is to China and the US. At 25% tariffs, that's a significant cost for industry. And, everyone is very concerned. The China tariffs went in effect today, and the US, I guess, we'll see on April 2nd.
Okay, so what are you going to do to deal with this? I mean, I know that you get high costs, in volatile markets. Margins are fluid at the best of times. I mean, how has this uncertainty changed your operations?
Well, of course, we have to look at this from a perspective that you have to diversify where we sell the product. And, in some species that's possible, in others it's not so easy. In our case, about a third of our volume each goes to North America, Europe, and Asia. But in the case of dollars, about half is to the US and about 15% to China, which were a little bit below the average for the rest of Canada. But nevertheless, it's a big challenge, especially these coming at such a late date in before our main seasons.
Right, and market diversification takes time, and fishing seasons are short and very time limited for obvious reasons. So, I mean, how do you pivot in the time that you have with the species that you're catching now?
Well, it's not easy, David. Like on snow crab, for example, I mean, the US, what they buy is about 95% of it comes from Canada. And, the two main markets are really Japan and the US, and to a lesser degree, China. So to move the product quickly to other locations is not easy. Significant volumes on the eve of the seasons. We do still sell quite a bit in Japan, but the largest volume goes to the US. So these are very difficult to deal with, and the timing, especially, there's no time to deal with it. Right? Industry has, we've been in a process of diversification for a long time to try to move volumes around the world. But you always have specific markets for certain species, right? So if you look at sea cucumber, for example, which is a very well-known item in China, there's not many options for that.
Right.
We have chased the ethnic markets in the US and Europe, but it's still not easy to diversify some of the species.
So, I wonder how you rank this challenge. I saw Jerry Byrne, the provincial fisheries minister, was comparing this to 1994 with the cod moratorium. I don't know, or saying it's the worst since then. I don't know if it certainly rises to that scale, because that was catastrophic, for back home. Obviously, this is tough. I mean, but what does this mean in terms of like profit margins, job losses, whether you just don't catch certain things? I mean, where does it rank?
Well, it certainly ranks up there, that's for sure. I mean, if you look at the effect of it, if the 25% was applied to the exports to US and China, that's $1.6 billion for Canadian industry. And, I mean, some of that, no doubt, we'll have to pass on to consumers. The currency might help a little bit, in terms of it's a bit weaker dollar versus a year ago. But it's something that's very difficult to deal with and creates great uncertainty in the business.
I talked to Jason Johnston yesterday, who's a canola farmer in Manitoba. And obviously they're being affected by all of this in a different way with the Chinese tariffs. And his argument, at least on the China issue, was that the federal government should reverse the electric vehicle tariffs that they put in place and the other tariffs they put in place that China's retaliating on here. I mean, what do you want to see from the federal government here on action to mitigate the impact of all of this trade disruption on your sector?
So, David, firstly, we feel a bit caught in the crossfire because most of the items we export to these two countries, they don't produce themselves. And, there's a big demand for the product. So we're basically getting penalized for, other trade issues, essentially. And we would really like to see the Canadian government take a strong position in negotiating with both China and the US, and see if we can get rid of these tariffs. I mean, nobody wants to see tariffs on food and a higher prices flowing to the consumer, especially, right? So, I mean, that's one thing we need to step up our game in that regard. And also, it's going to have impacts on a lot of people, and we'll have to look at financial supports for industry. When you're hit with 25% tariff on 85% of your market, I mean, that's an incredible situation to be put in on the eve of major seasons.
Yeah, and we're headed into an election now, Martin Sullivan, on Sunday, and even at the short end of an election campaign, I know your family knows politics well, that's a lot of the fishing season that gets eaten up, right? It's unlikely that the trade disputes get resolved between now and April 28th or May 5th, whenever we vote. So, I mean, beyond like the job sharing programs that are there, I mean, I know that doesn't help someone who's got to make a payment on a boat that costs a couple of $1 million. I mean, what kind of support are you looking for from the federal government as a company and as a sector?
Well, I mean, I think the federal government has indicated that the tariffs they collect on products coming in, they would use to support industry.
Right.
So, I mean, that's certainly one place to look. And, it would be fair that it would be applied to people that are getting tariffs applied that really have no impact across the country. It's like I said, we're caught in the crossfire, and we're kind of bearing the brunt a lot of this, right? I mean, 25% in two markets, it's quite incredible, and we need the federal government to help us.
Okay, one last question, Martin Sullivan, before we let you go. I wonder, the consumer carbon price, that's going to end on April 1. I would suspect, did your fleets pay that for the boats going out to catch? I mean, is that any kind of a relief for the sector, at least on the trucks that haul the ice and the fish and maybe on the boats that go out and catch? Does that help you at all in the short term?
It doesn't help much, David. I mean, most of the tax on fuel that we get applied on the carbon tax is industrial carbon tax, I guess you call it. I mean, in our case, that's cost us, probably a couple of $1 million this year. So, that's a big impediment. That's something that they could look at as well. That's a big impediment and a big cost for industry. We've seen a huge increase, even though the price of oil is down to where it was a long time ago. We still have very high fuel prices, both in our offshore sector and inshore fishermen as well. So we certainly would appreciate some relief there.
So it's going to be a tough year probably anyway, and all of this trade has just made it a whole lot worse.
It's made it a lot worse, and the consumer can only bear so much. And I know people say that half the U.S. population is living paycheck to paycheck, so putting an extra tax on food is not going to be easy. And the result of that is that if we can't, then there's a lot lower market returns for industry in Canada.
Martin Sullivan, CEO of Ocean Choice. Thanks for your time, man, and good luck with the season. And good luck with the weeks ahead. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, David.